Trey Gowdy joins us now. Trey, good morning to you. So let's talk about the facts, right? Hunter was just out of rehab. He put in the application. The application asked whether or not you're on drugs. He says no, and he gets the firearm. Are those facts in dispute?
Well, I think the application asks whether or not you're an addict or an unlawful user. So let's separate the two. Addict is probably a medical term. You're going to need an expert to say whether or not someone is addicted. There are no lawful users of cocaine base. So if this were a Valium or a Lortab or a lorazepam case, there are lawful users of those controlled substances, but there are no lawful users of cocaine base. So I think his best defense is, look, I really wasn't an addict. I may have told people I was, but I don't meet the medical definition. Or I think his best defense is one of jury nullification. I mean, Bill, think about how many GOP Second Amendment absolutists there are. There's some that are running for president. I mean, President Trump just spoke to the NRA. They don't think there ought to be any gun laws, whether you're an addict, whether you're a convicted felon. So you're going to hear a little bit of a jury nullification argument, I think, over the next couple of weeks.
Let me tell you about the jury then, the breakdown. This is as of yesterday. This is who we have. 6 women, 6 men. 3 are white females, 3 black females, 4 black males, and 2 white males. I thought this was interesting, too, because, just like with the Trump case, we're dealing with someone that has 100% name ID, especially in Delaware. Questions that the judge asked potential jurors range from things like, your views regarding the 2024 election, would that affect your thoughts? Or do you believe Hunter Biden is being prosecuted because his dad is the president and a candidate for president? And do you believe the government should not be able to require a background check for a gun purchase? So when they were going forward to try to get the jury, that's what they had to consider. Your thoughts about the difference between Trump trying to get a fair trial in New York City and Biden's trying to get a fair trial in Delaware?
Well, Dana, I have this really bad habit, although I'm working on it. I try to be fair. I know there's a very small constituency for that. I think if it had been Donald Jones or Donald Trump or Donald Thomas, we would not have been in New York for the past several weeks. I think if this were Hunter Jones or Hunter Smith, you and I would be talking about something else this morning. So we got to get beyond treating people differently based on their political status or what their last name is. I did gun prosecutions for 6 years. I went after convicted felons. I went after people who were fugitives from justice. I went after lots of different people who are prohibited from possessing a firearm. But I'll bet you there weren't 10 cases prosecuted nationwide of addicts or unlawful drug users who possess firearms or lied on applications. I bet there weren't a dozen, which makes you wonder, of all the cases you could be pursuing in Delaware, why are you pursuing this one?
Well, here was one takeaway on NBC. It was impossible to escape the presence of the first family, their influence, and their long history hovering over the courtroom. As we mentioned, the First Lady was there yesterday on her birthday. Now to Atlanta, quickly, Trey. There has been a hearing set for October 4th, which is 31 days away from the election, which clearly shows right now that the Fani Willis matter in Atlanta, Georgia will not be decided pre-election time. Statement from Trump's lead attorney. We look forward to presenting argument before the panel of judges on why this case should be dismissed and the Fulton County DA should be disqualified for the trial. Courts acknowledge odor of mendacity, misconduct in violation of the Georgia rules of professional conduct. In a bigger sense here. Do we believe right now that the only case for sure that will be decided was the one last week here in New York? And if we believe that, with a Supreme Court still yet to rule on the issue of immunity and not fully understanding the appeals process, is the Bragg case settled for now? And is that the only case that will be settled prior to the election?
I think the answer to your second question is yes. The other 3 cases will not make it to a jury or a verdict between now and the election. As to whether or not the Supreme Court will reach down and take jurisdiction, I don't see it. I know a lot of people who made better grades than I did in law school think that there is a way for the Supreme Court to do it. I just think they're tired of being involved in political cases. They're going to let the New York appellate court sort it out, and then it may work its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court But I don't think they're going to reach down and say, hey, because this defendant is Donald Trump and running for president, we're going to assert jurisdiction. I don't see that happening.
All right.
Trey Gowdy, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.